So good evening, everybody. This is Dayna Martin with Try This at Home. I'm your host for this show where we talk about peaceful parenting and unschooling. Tonight on the show, I have some very special guests. I have 7 unschooled kids and teens here. We're all crammed in the studio, and we're excited to connect with you all and share with you more about unschooling. I share philosophy with you guys all the time, and you hear different ways that I handle parenting and learning, but now we have the resource here. We have kids that you can call and ask questions to. We're taking calls all night for the entire show, for the hour, and the call-in number is 1-718-717-8296, so thank you very much for tuning in. So I figured I'd start the show by sharing that all of these kids that are here were at the unschooling conference that my husband and I run, and it is the Life Rocks Unschooling Conference, and I want to ask everybody here first, what was the best part of the conference for you guys? Does anyone want to answer?
Being with friends.
Yep, that was my daughter Tiffany, being with friends. So this is the first time actually that my daughters are on my show. My son Devin's on all the time hosting, and I get a lot of good feedback about him being on, but my daughters wanted to be on tonight, and so I'm so excited to have them. So why don't we actually start off? Why don't we just share who's here in the room, and you can share your ages just to let the listeners know.
I'm 12.
And Tiffany.
And Tiffany, yeah.
Yep, and
I'm Olivia, and I'm 14.
I'm Ivy, and I'm 9.
I'm Jesse, and I'm 14.
I'm Tristan, and I'm 16. I'm Devin, and I'm 15.
And we have a call-in guest unschooler, Nev. Hey, Nev.
Hey.
Thanks for being here tonight, everybody. So I was just asking everyone what their favorite part about Life Rocks was, the conference. It's rare that unschoolers are together for a long period of time, and conferences are a great way for everybody to connect. It seems like this life is such a unique life. It's such a unique path that most of the relationships, I think, are forged through Skype and online social media. But what was it like for all of you to be together for a week? Anybody want to answer? Jump in.
I was thinking.
Well, Tiffany already said being with friends.
It was just free. That's it. That's all we did. We just hung out the whole time. Everyone got to see each other.
So this was your first conference, right, Nev?
I went to Rethinking Everything.
Oh, yeah, you went to the conference that I ran in Texas. Yeah, great. I forgot that you were there. So this is your first time at Life Rocks, though.
Yeah.
I noticed that you guys, all the teens just kind of crashed together. Wasn't it in your room?
Yeah, it was.
I don't know if most parents would be supportive of a bunch of teens crashing together in a room, but all the parents that were at the event were completely supportive. I think part of this life is based in trust and respect, and that is something I think very unique to this life. I had a few people raise their eyebrows when they heard it all. The teens were sleeping in one room together. So what did you guys do? Tell me about this room. What did you guys do in the room?
All a blur.
What did you guys do? So anyone that was any of the teens, Tristan or Jesse or Devin?
We played werewolf. We slept.
We made bad puns.
We made bad puns.
A lot of
I stayed up all night for the very first time in my entire life.
Oh yeah, Tristan stayed up for the first time all night. Everybody was supporting him through that. I remember hearing about that, and I heard all about the bad puns.
There were a lot. They were all bad.
Well, I'm so glad that you're all here together with me. So I just want to share, let's just start off. There's so many questions that are flooded to me right now that I don't even know where to begin. But I just want to remind our listeners that you can call in and ask the teens any questions you're curious about. They're here as a resource for you. And so let's see. So what are the biggest misconceptions, guys, do you think that people have about unschoolers? Or the biggest myths that people have about your lives? Does anyone want to share?
That we don't do anything all day.
Yeah, that's a big one.
That we're all the
just sit
opposite
at
of
home.
socialites.
Yeah,
We're all stupid
exactly.
and we don't know mathematics.
That was a lot. Yeah, that was definitely a big list. So one was that what was it that you don't do anything all day? Olivia said that one of the biggest misconceptions is they don't do anything all day. And I think the term unschooling is a little bit misleading for people sometimes when they're not familiar with the philosophy, because it sounds like you're uneducating, but it's just not doing school. It's unschooling. It's living life as though school doesn't exist, which is pretty shocking for people, because most people that homeschool buy a curriculum and do what schools do at home, but this life is really different. So what do you guys do then, if you want to share with anybody?
Today, me, Jesse, and Tristan walked like 4 miles through the woods barefoot all day.
Yeah, that was something.
That was fun.
Me and Olivia did a photo shoot.
Tiffany is an aspiring photographer, so I saw that. Well, you both are. You both have a YouTube channel, don't you?
Yeah.
You're starting one anyway. You have one, right, Tiffany?
Well, yeah, I have been a YouTuber for like 2 years, so...
You have a bigger following than I do at this point, I think, on YouTube.
Yeah.
So what else do you guys do, like, with your time? It was interesting. I think I was talking to Jesse before when he was sharing that some days it doesn't look like much what you're doing, but I think that's really important to share with people, is that our kids have the freedom to just relax and sleep half the day if that's what their bodies need, and a lot of what they're doing, they're integrating so much learning in this downtime. And so what do you consider, like, how do you spend your time? Anybody else? Anyone want to share?
I play a lot of online games that require teamwork, which is fun. But more recently, I've been trying to do stuff that requires work with my hands, like woodworking or blacksmithing.
That was Tristan sharing that. You and Tristan are both into blacksmithing right now, so they're pursuing that. So, Neva, what do you do with your time? What are your passions and interests?
Well, I've always been the kind of person, I don't really have, like, at least, like, right now, I don't really necessarily have, like, set passions that I focus all my time on. I've always been the kind of person, like, each day is a new opportunity to do something new. So my life, that's why a question that I get a lot is, like, what do you do all day? And it's so hard for me to answer because every day I do something completely different. One day I can be out in the woods, like, building something, and then the next day I'm, like, inside, watching Netflix. It's really, I've always just saw every day as, like, a new opportunity to try something new.
I love that.
I feel like I'm probably the same way.
Yeah, I do.
It's such a hard question, even during interviews when somebody asks me, so what is a typical day like in your family? It's crazy. I can't even answer it. I usually say that it's what most people do on weekends, maybe. Because it's hard. We don't live life with a schedule of any kind. Everybody just sleeps till they're rested, and they eat when they're hungry. And every day looks completely different. Even during, we have a teen gathering happening right now, actually. That's part of the reason why all the teens are here at our house. But we had, 4 more teens here?
Yeah.
We had 4 more here that have already gone home.
They're gone now.
They're gone. It's sad. But they every day that everybody was here was different, too. I mean, you guys did something different every day. One day you were kind of hanging out. The other day you were more active at the lake. But, yeah. So everyone's pursuing their passions. Tiffany and Olivia are kind of more into pop culture, I'd say, than the other teens. Would you agree?
Yeah.
We're in Ivy as well. I'm taking the 3 of them with their mother, Amber. We're taking the kids to see One Direction. August 7th, right? And the girls have everything planned.
And 5 Seconds of Summer, too.
Well, they're opening for them, yes. 5 Seconds of Summer.
We're still seeing them.
Yeah, the girls are very excited. And I think that the important thing for everybody to realize are, like, these are typical teens, but they're not typical teens. I mean, they give each other a hard time. They argue and fight sometimes. The teen boys here think Tiff's room plastered with One Direction photos is funny.
Heaven.
Jesse says it's heaven in there, and I think he's being sarcastic. But
even I don't know.
But they all have a good time together. And, like, how do you guys base your friendships? Like, kids in school, a lot of times the friendships are based on who happens to live in their town and who happens to be the same age. But I love that you guys you literally can hand select the people that are in your lives. You're not friends out of convenience. In fact, most of these relationships are pretty inconvenient because they're all long distance and you're Skyping, and the effort and the amount of effort that you guys put into maintaining relationships is extremely impressive to most people. So how do you base who you choose who to hang out with?
It's cool.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of hard. I was just thinking, I was going to say mutual interests, but everyone I know has different interests, so it's kind of a tricky one.
Would you choose someone just because they're unschooled, or have you met other unschoolers that you just did not click with?
I don't like some unschoolers.
Well, I'm friends with a lot of people from not school, like my friend Molly.
Or people that do go to school?
Yeah, that's what I meant.
So you have a lot of friends that are, I think that's more even this year, you've connected with other kids your age through dance and other resources. Do you guys find that there's a difference in kids that are in school?
Yes.
Yes.
And I want you to be honest on the show. Don't hold back. Just tell me what your experience is like, because the listeners would be so interested in hearing. So what do you think the differences are from your experience?
I think they feel more comfortable with themselves. They're more free to be who they are.
Unschoolers?
Yeah. Unschoolers. Then sometimes in school you're kind of a little pressured to fit in more and basically.
Right. Anybody else?
I noticed that a lot of the school friends that I have, as opposed to unschoolers, they tend to talk about school more often and how it either sucks or like what's new about it, and rather than what they do with their lives outside of school.
Yeah. It becomes a central part of their life.
Yeah.
It's pretty much the main thing. I don't get along with them. They're more judgmental and they're not as fun.
Yeah.
That's fascinating. I never really thought of that. What do you think, Nev? Do you have that same experience? Or?
Yeah, definitely. I think, like, I have a couple of friends that go to school, and they always are just, like, blown away by the fact that I don't go to school. They're like, what do you think about? Like, what do you talk about? I think it's kind of almost like, you know, that's the only thing that's in their realm of thinking. Like, this happened at school, this kid said this at school, like, my teacher did this, and it's, you know, I don't know, it's like they're in, like, some type of box or something like that. Not all, but a lot. I've noticed it.
Yeah, that's fascinating. You guys are right. I've noticed that myself. Even when adults talk to kids that they meet, kids or teens, it's always about school. What grade are you in? How do you like your classes? Like, that is life to them. That is their life.
And I kind of notice sometimes if people, like, are in school and then they come into, like, at your house, and then we say, do you want to go on the trampoline or something? And they're like, oh, wait, we're allowed to do this at this time? But we go. We go on the trampoline at like 2 in the morning, and they're like, wait, we can be even awake at 2 in the morning, so.
Right, yeah, that freedom component blows people's minds, and I think especially, most of my listeners on this network, I think are most interested in hearing about that part of it. I mean, most people really understand the education and non-schooling side of unschooling, but the parenting side is really blows people's minds. The fact that you kids aren't punished is huge. So we don't live life with rules. So what are your thoughts about that? Do you guys live life with rules? I mean, I'd like to think that we live by, personally, our family lives by
laws.
Well, yeah.
Usually.
Yeah. I mean, that's huge.
Maybe not on Tuesday.
That
swim on Tuesdays.
Oh, we don't know.
It's okay. She'll come back. Yeah, I mean, I just posted an article that I wrote, actually, called Arbitrary Rules, Absolute Risk. That a lot of parents think that if they don't have these, like, fake rules in the house, when I say fake rules, I mean just rules for the sake of rules, that their kids won't learn that there are laws in the world and won't learn to obey authority. And I like to share with people that life, like Devin said, there's laws in the world. How do you guys learn about them? By living side by side with your parents, right? What do you think when you hear, do you have any friends or anyone you know that's, like, grounded or punished?
Yeah.
Well, the school friends. Yeah, I don't have any school friends. I don't think I have a single school friend.
Devin, are you the only one, Devin, with no friends in school?
I don't think I really have any.
I don't have any.
Yeah, I mean, Jesse and Devin. So half the kids here don't have any friends in school, and half do.
None that I frequently hang out with.
It's interesting, isn't it, that you kind of just move toward kids that are more free? I think it is a big difference. Kids are always fascinated, like the kids in Tiffany's dance class were really fascinated with the fact that she wasn't punished and that she didn't have to go to school and she didn't have to do anything she didn't want. The kids always ask me, so she can do whatever she wants? And I'm like, yeah, of course, just like I can. And they can't wrap their head around it. What does that mean to you guys? When you hear that and you live by that, people assume that you must be, like, crazy, like.
Well, they're conditioned their whole lives to live by rules and not have any freedom, usually, so that must be pretty weird, I don't know.
Well, with freedom comes responsibility, wouldn't you guys say?
Yeah.
I think that's a big part of it, that your freedom only extends to where somebody else's begins. I mean, there's definitely issues at conferences that come up where parents are new to this life, and they just think that it means that their child can act any way, and even stomping on other people's freedoms, and that's okay. And I love to share with parents that it's really important to give your kid information. I mean, you guys really appreciate when I give you information. I remember when you were really little, before we'd go into the library, I would just remind you that it's usually really quiet in here. If you guys could keep your voices down, there's people reading. It's just a quiet environment. And you would you'd thank me, and you'd respect that fact. I wouldn't threaten you and say, if you're loud in here, you're getting your toys taken away, or
getting throat punched.
Right, exactly.
People seem to forget that kids have morals too. They're not gonna do bad stuff.
Yeah.
I love that. You're so right. And assuming positive intent from kids, and knowing that kids and teens they want to do good. I mean, they're born into this world good, and you have to just nurture that. So that is such an important...
Humans are programmed to break rules and pass boundaries, so telling them not to do something probably doesn't help.
Yeah. They're bringing a sign that's passing. You just let us pass all over that place.
Yeah, why do you think that is?
Parents, some parents really, really need to learn that, their children are not dogs. They can't treat them like animals, putting leashes on them and saying, if you can just have this one ice cream cone, that's it. Because, dogs, it's okay to say, oh, they can't have this, because sometimes, with chocolate for dogs, they can die, but for humans, it's not the best for them, but they can have as much as they want. Their parents really, really need to learn that their their children are not like dogs or animals.
They're not going to want to eat too much. Yeah. If it's an actual bad thing, they're going to stop, but if you tell them they can't, they're going to do it as much as they can.
Yeah.
They're free to. They're not going to
It's going to make them want to do it even more.
Yeah.
Yeah, you guys I always share with parents that it pulls you from your natural ability to regulate or to find your own limits or your own balance with things, because you instead of focusing on the thing, you're focused on your own autonomy and freedom, and you're like, screw that, I'll eat twice as much just to prove my freedom to myself and to others. So that's so important to say. Who would want to do harm for their body? Mm-hmm. People ask me all the time the big questions about drugs and sex. I remember on the Bethany show, they asked me what if your 11-year-old wanted to have sex? Crazy questions. And I say, well, my 11-year-old isn't even dating yet. But if my kids wanted to experience anything, I'd give them information, support. Do you think forbidding drugs and sex, or what other people would find offensive or wrong, by saying you can't do that or you're punished, keeps kids or teens from doing these things?
It makes them do it.
Yeah.
For the sheer rebellion of it.
I don't know why our brains act like that, but they do. So
programmed to pass boundaries to be better, and I think that kind of translates over to rules.
Yeah.
That is really profound. Yep. It makes them do it, exactly. You heard it from the experts here, the actual teens living this life. You are. You're experts.
The test tubes all grown up.
Yeah, I think you'd all probably agree with that. And there's times where, when Devin was probably 2 or 3 years old, he was really interested in fire. And he wanted to light matches and start fires in the wood stove. And everybody around me was telling me not to let him do it. And there's a big difference between just giving your kid matches and saying, good luck, and being by their side and supporting them. And I always trusted my instinct to support Devin in doing something like that. Now, today, he's a blacksmith and a fire twirler and everything else involving fire. And I like to think that, I believe that kids are much less safe when you just, tell them not to do something or you don't allow them to experience it. So, do you guys do anything that, other people would think was a little crazy or risky?
Yeah.
What do you do? You don't do anything, Ivy. Come on. You don't go this first.
So never say yeah.
Yeah, I feel that way with piercings. That was a big thing because I always get them professionally done and stuff like that. And I feel like a lot of my friends that went to school, they would have like these piercings, like their tongues pierced and stuff, and I'd be like, oh, how'd you do that? And they'd be like, well, my mom said I couldn't, so I just like shoved an earring through my tongue. You know what I mean? It's like, I definitely think if you say like you can't do this, they're going to do it, so why not give them information like, oh, you can get an infection or, you know, something like that, and then they're going, you know, let them get it done the right way, sort of thing. I think that kind of ties into that.
Yeah, for sure. I love that comparison because a few of you have piercings. Jesse, you have a nose piercing. What was that experience like? What did you tell your mom you wanted to get it done? And
Yeah, I told her I wanted to get it done. And the piercing guy was probably okay with it because I look older than I am.
yeah,
You really do. I thought you were like 16 or 17, but you're 14.
and what was the experience like for you?
Good.
Cool. And your mom supported you, obviously, and gave you information. And your mom has her nose pierced too, right? Yeah, I think, like a lot of these mothers have tattoos and piercings too, so obviously we're going to support our kids. We're kind of more on the fringe in a few different ways. But, yeah, I noticed that with unschooled kids, that a lot of them look kind of wild, right? I mean, you'd see an unschooled, or you go to an unschooling conference, I wonder what the outside world thinks looking in, because...
No, they're doing all this perfectly safe stuff to their body.
Well, I mean, you see the long hair and the piercings and the colored hair and the really unique clothing. I mean, I love going to unschooling conferences and just seeing the individuality there. But in our culture, when somebody expresses themselves in that way, it's generally thought of as rebellion. And so people, I think, see unschooled kids and they don't realize that they're like the nicest, most, loving, I don't mean to generalize, but they're the kindest, loving, most accepting people. But you would not guess that judged on a lot of their appearance. I've had people come to the conference and they're like, whoa, those kids look so tough. It's like they're...
We're gonna beat up the schoolers.
I haven't found that to be true at all. If anything, they're the most helpful kids I've ever seen. So it's really interesting. It's the ones that conform in school that look like the perfect student and the perfect kids wearing exactly what they should be with the short haircuts. And those are the ones that have these double lives.
Either that or like the people looking in, they just think, Lordy, what a shame, or something like that.
Yeah. Exactly.
That's for true.
All right, guys, so let's get down to the nitty-gritty. Let's answer the questions that people want to hear, and that's, do any of you...
For 24 minutes.
I know, it goes by
Usually
so
it goes
quick.
By, usually, no, I mean, this is slow.
You think so?
It usually goes by faster than this.
Well, I can't believe it's already been half
Maybe
an
it's
hour.
because it's hot in here.
Why don't you open the window? It is really hot in here. We're in a tiny little studio that is Devin's bedroom.
It's not a studio.
I call it a studio. You have to make it sound like it's very official. But it's really Devin's bedroom. Put the fan on. You can put the fan on.
It's too loud.
It's really loud.
Okay, so guys, tell me, how did you all, those of you that know how to read, do you want to share? Because people say that if you're not forced to do workbook pages and you're not in school, how do your kids learn to read? Now, I think it's important to share that there's a huge range of ages that kids are ready to read, and kids in school are all forced to learn by age 6 because that's what's convenient after 3rd grade. Everything's in the written word in the curriculum, and it's easier for the teachers in the institution to have everybody reading, but it's not what's best for the kids. In fact, the ones that aren't ready to read by that age are labeled ADHD, dyslexic, you name it. They're drugged, they're labeled, but they don't fit into that box. Now, you all have freedom to learn when you're ready, and you all have different experiences. I think, Tristan, out of all the kids, you were in school for a while.
Until like 3rd, 4th grade.
Yeah, I was
I
in
don't
school.
remember much of it.
Oh, till 5th grade now?
I think I got out in the beginning of 4th. I'm pretty sure.
So you guys were, I'm assuming, both reading by age 6.
Yeah, I think I was reading before 6.
There are some unique situations where naturally kids learn to read earlier, but I think generally, from my experience working with unschooling families,
My tremble.
it's a little bit later than that. So do you want to just share how you guys learned to read? And it could be as simple or as detailed as you want. Nev and Tristan, we already know that you went through the traditional process.
I learned when I was 8 by playing video games
This
all
is
day.
kind of out of the subject, but like parents always like, say to their kids, like, you can't listen to this song because it says this one swear word, and like, you can always, like, just think about something and get the clean version of that song. Like, I don't get why parents are like, oh no, that says woman in that song. Like, you can't, you're so young, you're 5 years old, you can't hear that word. Like,
right, so censorship. Tiff has a big problem with censorship. It's actually a passion of hers to, like, awake parents up to giving kids freedom to make good choices. So I think that's an important thing. Let's talk about that right after we talk about reading, for sure, because I wanted to go there, so I'm so glad you brought it up. So you learned to read. It was a long process, Tiff. And when I say a long process, I don't mean a tedious process. I mean the natural reading happens over the course of years. The first book you read was
the One Direction Where We Are book,
which was like a 270-page biography that is actually geared for older kids than you even were when you read it. So just because you started later with reading didn't mean you had to start with, like, first grade reading material. You jumped right to your age group instantly. So you learned through what? Texting your friends? People are so blown away about that.
The only two books the first two books I read were both spell books.
What do you mean?
They weren't spell. It was wizardology, and then there's a book about pagan stuff. I don't know why, just a coincidence.
Well, you learned to read through playing video games.
Well, yeah.
Pretty much. I remember RuneScape.
RuneScape was the turning point.
And Tiffany learned to read by having freedom with media and social media and texting with her friends. People are so blown away with that. When we were on Wife Swap, we got so much criticism for you learning to read through texting. Why? I don't understand why. What do you guys think?
It's untraditional.
Yeah, it's different.
You're learning in a way that's fun. Oh no!
yeah. Well, you can't do that.
Right, that's in a way that's useful. I mean, when you pull a kid, when they can learn to read with something that has meaning to them as a tool for them in context, it's so much easier. So what about you, Olivia? Do you want to share? Yeah, well, that's...
I really can't remember.
I like that, though. I like that you can't remember because it goes to show it wasn't traumatizing. It was natural. Because when you ask somebody, when did you wean, they can't generally remember that. Like, wean or...
I remember.
Do you?
I was 6.
I was 11 months. 11 months.
Yes, Ivy nursed till she was 6.
I'm still not weaned.
Oh, Devin.
I can still see that
Oh,
happening.
God, there's a whole blog going up about that right now as we speak, I'm sure.
I lied. I was like 3, maybe.
You were 3, you were 4.5.
I'm so proud that I was weaned when I was really young. I don't know why, I just like it.
Do you?
Yeah.
Because you're like
I'm different.
You're traditional. You were 11 months old when you weaned. So Olivia doesn't remember, which I think is really impressive because it goes to show how natural and untraumatizing it was, and it was just a useful tool that she picked up when she was ready. Ivy's still in the process of learning to read. Do you think it's frustrating that you don't know how to read yet, or how do you feel about it, Ivy?
Sometimes it's hard because she says, like, when she's playing Minecraft, like, someone says, like, sure, and they're like, quick, what does it say? And then she says, Devin always gets, like, mad about it, and he's like, it says sure, just read already, or whatever, but he doesn't mean it, but, like, he just gets really, really mad easily about that kind of stuff.
Devin's not fond of being at the beck and call to Ivy as a walking dictionary. He gets annoyed by it, so she asks me, but I think at any age that would happen, for sure. So, anybody else? How'd you guys, Devin, Jesse, either one of you feel like sharing?
I already did.
You did?
I think I learned to read pretty late. I'm not sure when, but I didn't want to up until then, and that was probably talking to friends or playing games.
Yeah.
Cheer doing all.
I can read perfectly now. Jesse, you can read better than I can, I think. You can spell better than I can.
I can read better than perfect. I actually wrote the dictionary.
Well, I think it's really interesting, and I hope the listeners can really grasp how powerful this is, that it doesn't matter how early a child learns to read. it doesn't mean that they're going to be far advanced, because all of these kids have learned to read at different ages. I know it was between the ages of 10 and 11 when Devin and Tiffany learned, and Ivy's 9 and still in the process of it. Some unschoolers don't read till they're 14, 15 years old. Mind you, that's on the far end of the spectrum, but that's completely natural for some kids. And they're caught up right to their, quote, reading level, what mainstream would consider reading level, within right when they begin. So it's not like they're ever behind. So everything you've been told is a lie. That's not true.
Everything.
Everything.
Every thing you've ever been told is a lie. You think your husband loves you? You're wrong.
Well, guys, listen. Everyone loves you. Just don't think that they hate you, because they don't.
Tiffany's big on telling people how much they mean to everybody else and how loved they are. I love that. What did you eat?
Okay, this is so weird. Like, me and Olivia, 3 minutes ago, let's say, we were trying to make a YouTube video.
3 minutes ago.
No, 3 days ago. Not 3 minutes, 3 days ago. Sorry. We were trying to make a YouTube video of calling, hotels and saying, so I called one and I said, we believe in you, just never give up, whatever, and they just hung up. They didn't even say thanks and then hung up. They just hung up.
It's not nice.
Well, it was interesting because they were doing kind of the opposite of prank calls, and they were calling businesses, telling them how special they were and how much they meant to them, and the businesses didn't know what to think of it. I don't think people know what to do with kindness. We're so far removed. We're so far removed from it. Was that weird? So, what did people tell me? What you'd say when you'd call somebody?
What?
What would you say when you'd call somebody?
That made my day, and you're an awesome person for doing that.
Yeah.
I'll be like, oh, wait, is this for a video? Because, of course, who wouldn't make a video of doing that, even if it wasn't for YouTube? That would just be awesome that someone did that. Yeah.
Well, you guys can do it for sure. So let's talk a minute about what you said. So you're not for censorship. So do you think it corrupts you to hear swears on songs? I mean, what do you guys...
No.
That's what someone who's corrupted would say.
No.
I remember, and I'm sure people get sick of hearing this, but I was a total metalhead when I was a teen, and I used to love bands that I was really criticized for liking because of the lyrics. Seriously, I used to love Slayer and Obituary and really hardcore metal. I was the only girl that liked it out of anybody I knew, but if you were to analyze the lyrics, they were pretty brutal, but I loved the energy of the music. It was the energy that I connected with, and it met a need within me. I swear listening to Metallica is what got me on this path of advocacy. If you listen to their lyrics from their album Injustice for All and the Black Album...
I can't even stand looking at the outfits. I can't.
What do you mean of metal music?
I just it's so weird. They're wearing a crop top tank top.
No, they're not.
Sometimes.
Tiff is very not anti-metal, but she does not appreciate. She does not like my music. Devin likes my music, and actually, Nev, you're into the same music I am, pretty much.
Yeah.
And the one thing,
I'm not talking Slayer or Obituary, but I know the mellower metal you're into.
And the one thing, this is not about the metal music, Mom, thanks. I really hate when parents say to their kids, that's, let's say, it's nail polish or something, and it's honey, that is way too bright for your age. Dark red, it's that's so bright for your age. It's really, it's just a color.
So you're all about trusting kids and not having them censored and allowing them to express themselves the way they want. You actually, Tiffy, you have stretchers in your ears, which people can never believe that.
Yeah, someone commented on one of my YouTube videos before, and they're like, wait, you have gauges? I'm 16, my mom doesn't allow me to get gauges. And I'm like, oh, I don't know what to say to that.
So guys, tell me, what is some of the strangest comments that you have received from people? Just take a minute to think about it. Not just about unschooling. Has anyone asked you weird questions?
Thank you.
Are you commenting on Devin's bandana, or that's a comment you used to get?
No,
No?
I did get that one.
Yeah. Well, Tiffany had a hat she wore for a couple years.
Oh,
I know.
I hated that light moment.
Really?
From looking back, it's oh my god, just,
I think we all have those moments where we look back on pictures or remember something that we did. Like, this is my headband years. You know that there's going to come a time where I don't wear the white headband, where I'm like, oh my God, why did I always wear that? So we all have things that kind of are comforting to us, that make us feel like who we are in that moment in our lives. And we all have things that we wear.
Like One Direction. Like, let's say because they make me who I am.
I know.
Like, what would I do every day, like, if, like, I didn't? Like, I don't know what to say, Mom.
Oh, I know. You're expressing your love for One Direction, and I appreciate and support
I love
that.
One Direction, too. Just
Yeah. Oh my goodness. So anyway, let's go back to have any of you ever got any strange comments or questions? Like, what are the weirdest questions people ask you guys?
Like apparel-wise, or like...
No, just about your life as an unschooler.
are you dumb? I got that one in that voice one time.
From our neighbor?
Yeah.
Well, how awesome is that you guys, because people would think probably that people that don't go to school would get a lot of criticism, and you're sharing right now that you can't even think of a weird question or comment that you've got.
I don't socialize with people that aren't unschoolers usually, so...
Why is that, though?
I don't get along with them at all.
It is interesting when we go places, we definitely get stares, and I always kind of wonder why. It's like, do we look different? Do we stand out? There's just something people find fascinating about kids who are living in partnership with their parents. The way that we talk to you guys and the way that we spend our time with you is really non-typical. One thing that I notice when I take the kids out and you see parents like scolding their kids, that's something that drives Tiffany and Ivy crazy. Ivy can't stop staring at a parent who's counting. Like when they're looking at their child and they just start counting for them to listen and obey. And the kids always ask me, like, what the heck are they doing? Like,
I always make, like, stupid faces at them. Like, I always want to go up to them and say, what do you think you are? Like, why do you keep doing that? Like, you can just say it nicely and they'll listen to you.
Yeah. I don't think most parents think it's that easy. It's almost like they think it's a lot harder. So, okay, no one has any weird questions or comments. That's pretty cool. I didn't know that would happen. I thought for sure we'd get a crazy story. What now?
I think I've gotten a lot, but I don't know, it's kind of hard, like, to think of one. I mean, maybe not weird, but, like, I get a lot of questions that don't really make sense to me, I think. Like, I don't know, I think people think that our lives are, like, more radical than they really are.
Right. They can't imagine what it would be like without rules, without being forced to do schoolwork. And I think a lot of parents fear their kids being like social outcasts. Like I have parents that want to unschool, and they think that their kids are going to be like the ones made fun of, and it's so the opposite. Every time we've been around anyone, they think that these kids are the coolest kids that are just amazing, and how many times have you had other people tell you like they wish they had your lives? I mean, you guys are really fortunate in that way, and I've never seen an unschooler get made fun of for the sake of not going to school.
Like, always on, like, Instagram, like, I don't know if everyone knows what Instagram is. I bet everyone pretty much does, but, like, some kids always comment on on my photos, and are like, why are you not in school? It's 3. Why are you not in school? Or, like, when it's, like, 1 or something, they're like, why are you not in school? I'm like, because I don't go to school, I'm unschooled, and they're like, oh my god, you're so lucky, like, why don't you go to school? They, like, ask so many questions, like, that I can't even think how many questions they ask.
I saw somebody in the chat room, Boiler Room Radio, just posted, sounds like the young one has some anger issues, and I just want to address that. I'm assuming you're referring to my daughter, Tiffany, who's 12, that she has anger issues, and I don't think it's necessarily anger, but I think she gets really frustrated with disrespect toward kids. To label that an anger issue, because a child is seeing disrespect and injustice toward another child, just kind of brushes off the fact that she's speaking up for children's rights, and I think that's pretty amazing. So, is she angry? No, I don't know, Tiff. Do you think you're angry? Do you have anger issues? She's smiling. You didn't hear me. They're chatting. No, I don't think there's necessarily anger issues, but I don't want to speak.
Passion.
Yeah.
So, Boiler Room Radio, we're answering your comment.
Of course, of course you get mad sometimes.
Well, you're human beings. Of course you get mad, but to say anger issues for the sake of standing up for children's rights,
even if I do have anger issues, why? It's not your business. I'm just saying,
it's interesting. It's judgment, isn't it? It's judgment toward kids who are speaking passionately. It's well, thank you. Yeah, she is very passionate about children's rights, to the person who just commented in the chat room. But people want to keep kids down. They do, to label it anger issues just because a kid's speaking up for another kid. Think about how it's perpetuating keeping kids in the authoritarian paradigm of subservience. And even though you didn't mean it from that perspective, it's interesting how we're so programmed to see a child sticking up passionately for somebody else or speaking up. How... Anyway, okay, moving on.
yeah.
Well, hey, we're human beings. So, what were you saying, Jesse, that you didn't think it was anger?
No, I think it's just passion.
And some
she
people
really cares about something, so you're trying to express that, and you don't really know how in just like a calm, quiet manner, so you just get angry.
Right. Hey, it's all part of social change. And it's interesting because I would never label any of my kids necessarily angry about the state of the world. I think they get frustrated like I do. But because they're living the lives that they do, then they can come from a place of... I mean, well, I shouldn't speak for any of you. Do you guys ever get... He said he was referring to her wanting to punch people in the face.
I don't recall her saying that.
She never said... Did anybody in here say...
That might be when she said something about when parents were, talking to their kids. She said she wanted to make weird faces at them. That might have sounded like punch.
Oh, okay.
Almost like, who do you think you are? But I didn't...
Yeah, she didn't say she wanted...
someone for it.
She did. She said she wanted to give them weird faces. She didn't say she wanted to punch them in the face. But Devin said something about punching somebody.
I said throat punch. I said it as a joke.
Oh, Devin was joking. He said something about
referring to parents throat punching children for some reason. I don't know what. Honestly.
Anyway, I just wanted to correct that because it's really interesting to misconstrue what somebody's saying. But anyway, there's unschoolers that are happy. There's unschoolers that are on every end of the spectrum emotionally because, hey, we're human beings. There's times that I get angry and frustrated with seeing the way that children are treated in public. And but I've found that advocacy, getting angry at another person, never helps change it. You have to open your heart to understanding of other people and knowing that everybody's doing the best they can with what they know at the time. And when you meet a parent who's struggling with a young child, and my kids have seen this actually, they've seen me go into public. How do you guys feel when I speak up when I support somebody or...
Well, yesterday, you said it on Facebook, but this girl's ex-husband was being really, really mean to her and the kids, and she was being so nice, and then you wanted to give her a hug and stuff. So she was made today.
I feel like we need more people like that.
Yeah.
People.
Right. Well, thank you, Tristan. I think that you guys all have that compassion. And I want to share it with you or just ask you, the relationship with your parents I find really interesting. And I'm not just speaking for my own kids, but when I see Jesse with his mom and I see Tristan and Olivia with their mom, it's a really different relationship. When I heard Olivia on the phone with her mother, Amber, today, it sounded like talking with a friend. And when I say that, I think people are so conditioned by the saying that I'm your parent, not your friend, that they assume that when a child's close with their parent, that the parent must not be in a leadership role. And you guys have never lived any differently, but would you consider your parents your friends?
Yeah.
Yes.
Uh-huh.
And I heard everybody say yes to that.
Actually, I said definitely, but whatever.
Do your parents ever embarrass you, honestly?
Yeah.
Yes.
What happens when you dance in public?
Well, sometimes, yeah, I would assume that that's the
You
case.
have no comeback.
I have no comeback. I know that I do, but I can only be me. You know, you gotta live for yourself, and if being yourself means embarrassing your kids sometimes, well, you can't really help it. Can you guys think of any incidences?
What? What do you mean?
Incidences of parents. Parents embarrassing you.
Dancing in public. I know, I don't dance in public anymore. I know that I need lessons. I need to learn how to dance better.
Maybe because maybe it's always so bad for me because I'm like a dancer and it's just like.
You felt like that before you were a dancer.
Yeah, I know, but like still.
Okay, so let me just, moving on, guys. I want to focus on, if there's any other questions from the chat room, we're happy, or comments, we're happy to answer them. If there's any callers, anyone interested in calling in with questions for these unschooled kids and teens, please call in. It's 1-718-717-8296. We'd love to hear from you.
About 10 minutes.
We have about almost, 12 minutes or something like that. How does your extended family feel about unschooling? Do you have support from grandparents, aunts, uncles?
Well, not really. My dad's mom, like my grandparents that live like right next to us, they are not really supportive about it. But like my favorite grandparents, they live in the UK, and we're actually going to see them soon. But they're so supportive, and they're so supportive of our lives, and they're so happy for us.
That's so great. So anybody else, your family's extended family supportive?
Some of my side of the, or not my side, but
Your side of the family. Your side of it.
some of my relatives kind of hard pressed me into going back into school
Yeah.
rather than
They ask,
supporting
when
it.
are you going back? Like
Yeah,
you're going to be done with this. When are you going back?
or like when I'm trying to
My
explain.
dad is actually,
Your dad asks you, Nev, when you're going to go back?
my dad is really unsupportive about it. He always pesters me to go back to school. Actually, just last weekend, he sat there and lectured me about it, saying that like I would have so much fun in school, and I'm like doing myself a disservice. And my mom's parents, those grandparents, they're really supportive, and I'm really thankful for them. But my dad's side, they're the same way. They're all educators. They were all like principals and superintendents, and they give me a really, really hard time about it, and it's been really difficult for me.
I think that's one of the hardest aspects of living this life, is not having support from people that are in your life, that you love, that you just want them to understand. And, so anybody else want to share?
It is hot in here.
It is very hot in this room.
It's like at least 80.
Just put the fan on, please.
It will be too loud.
None of you put it on low.
It will be.
Yeah, well, Mom, we'll pick up. You're not even gonna be able to hear us talk.
It'll be fun. Somebody posted in the chat room that all these kids need an ass whooping and most likely a haircut.
Ah.
And of course they're anonymous.
Thank you. That actually is a very, very.
Isn't that funny how people are? Somebody asked, do unschoolers get taught the trivium? What is that?
Right back to you. That you need a haircut and an ass.
That's interesting. It's interesting how people can be really like violent towards kids, even in these type of comments. That these kids are all here spending their time to share this life with you, and somebody would go on in my very own network that I'm on saying that these kids need to be beat.
Sure, your kids are they must love you if you have any.
Yeah, what do you guys feel about that?
I'm sure
Somebody's
you love
saying,
your parents, don't you?
what if that said a woman? Like, what if it said like all these wives need an ass whooping? What do you think about that? Like, how would people respond to that about women? Because it wasn't, but to say it to a child, somehow it's acceptable. To say that the kids need to be beat.
I want to ask why? Answer me that. What am I doing wrong?
Is it because we're kids and you're an adult, maybe?
Yeah, I think you guys intimidate people. You really shake up the system. You create change, and you make people scared. You know, because when you can force somebody and beat them into being subservient, it's Yeah, it's really scary for our culture to think of freedom. You know, trivium, grammar, logic, rhetoric. Well, I mean, you're listening to them speak right now, so I say yes on the grammar. Logic. Well, I think it's... Go ahead. What were you going to say?
Well, no, I can recall just the other day, like, when all the other unschooler teens were here, we were talking a lot about, like, grammar and stuff, like, what would be the proper use for that word in that sentence. And, like,
We did that for like half an hour.
yeah, we did.
I are a good talking act.
I hear you guys talking theory and philosophy constantly. Ooh, there's all kinds of fun happening in the chat room. Let's just focus on the show. Let everybody else go at it with each other. That's not why we're here. But seriously, these kids are, I'm really grateful to you guys for coming on here and sharing with, everybody's watching the chat room. Punishing children is a sign of weakness. Well, you know what? Rules are for the lazy parent. I'm going to just throw that out there. That rules are easy. Being authoritarian, is an easy way out. To force someone to just obey constantly is very narcissistic. And forcing other people to meet your needs constantly through threat and punishing just because you're bigger and more powerful does nothing but create a narcissistic society and a narcissistic world. Everybody asks, everybody says in our culture, like, that the world is so full of narcissism and no one's taking a look at themselves, at what they're creating by being authoritarian to their kids. We live in partnership. Our kids have never been punished. They don't fear us. They know that they can come to us with any questions or comments, and we're here to support them. I know, just ignore this person. We get stuff like, you bore us, Anonymous. You really, truly do. Because we hear this kind of thing all the time, and these kids, it's just so boring.
And like in YouTube, people always like say this kind of stuff, and in real life, if someone says that, like, you can just say, I'm just joking, I'm just being sarcastic. Like, I'm a really, really sarcastic person. So, like, if I say something, like, right back at you, like, I don't really mean it. Like, so, yeah, like, I'm not, like, a lot of people are really, really sarcastic, and a lot of people are not.
Well, this person is saying that kids need to be beat and take the stupid things out of your ears. I'm not really... Yeah, I'm not sure. It's okay. Well, you know, we don't have to criticize this person in the chat room. Maybe they just need more freedom themselves. A lot of times people come from this perspective because they were very much controlled as children themselves, and they were told that it was necessary and that it equaled love. And it really shakes people up to hear that it wasn't necessary, that no, you didn't have to go through all that you went through that was so unjust and so painful to raise you in a good way. And so you guys are living examples and living proof of the fact that a child never needs to be punished. A child never needs to be treated as less than, to learn to be good people. These kids that are in here with me are some of the best people that I know. They are the kindest, most loving human beings that I've ever come across, and I know it's from their freedom and the respect that they receive.
You have 5 minutes left.
5 minutes left. So, Nev, I don't want to leave you out, Gerard. Thank you for calling in. These kind of comments are something that we're so used to, I think, any unschoolers, that kids need to be punished, that it's all necessary. But I encourage you, Anonymous 3279, watch some videos, connect, learn more about unschooling and a partnership-based parenting paradigm, because I think it'll really open your eyes and to unbrainwash yourself to think that punishments are necessary. You know, if you ever have any questions, feel free to send me a message. I'm happy to give you some resources to educate yourself about this lifestyle. I know it challenges people. It brings people to the depths of dealing with and processing maybe what they went through, or maybe you're a parent, and maybe it's challenging you as a parent because you think that that everything that you're doing is completely necessary, but it's not. When you let go of control and you shift to trust and freedom with your kids, you are blown away with what they're capable of.
And if you ever, like, let's just say when you get older, you might turn, like, to a different person and you're, like, really, really nice and everything, and you're gonna look back at this moment and say, yeah, I said to these kids that they need to get beaten. And, like, that's not a good memory to remember, you know?
Maybe he just needs a hug.
Maybe, yeah.
I'm assuming it's a guy, but I shouldn't make that assumption. It could be a woman, because the whole ass beating thing is more of a masculine to say, I guess. But,
Violence is not the answer.
no. No, and I hope someone gives you a hug and lets you know that they're sorry for any abuse that you went through as a child. So, okay, enough of the therapy session. And I love you guys that you guys reached out and offered this person that was criticizing you and saying you need to be beat. Oh, well, thank you very much, yeah. Okay. Anywho.
She said you're gorgeous, Mom.
Well, I don't know. Is it a woman or a man? I don't know. But thank you. We don't know. We don't know. You guys are awesome. Thank you all for being on with me tonight. And I'm surrounded by so much love here with all these kids. My daughter Ivy's hugging me. We're all anxiously watching the chat room. Thank you so much for saying that, Anonymous, for taking that turn. And he thanked us for bringing the kids to shine their light on the show. And that just means so much to me. That's why it's so important not to get, when somebody criticizes your life, no matter what you're doing, whether you're unschooling or whatever you're choosing to do in your life, don't get angry and mean back. It never changes the world. It's just people need love and understanding. And so when somebody criticizes, no matter what it is, open your heart, connect with them, share information without getting defensive. One of the best quotes I ever heard was by Byron Katie. Do you guys know who Byron Katie is?
I've heard her name several times.
And one of her... And her favorite quote of mine is, defense is the first act of war.
Oh, yeah, I've heard that about times.
And so anytime you feel the need to defend yourself, or be defensive, know that that's the first step in war. When you embrace somebody else's opinion and ideas and you just take the time to educate them, you don't know whose lives you're going to change. There's way too much defense. Even in the peace advocacy realm, there's too many people getting defensive and angry. You can't control someone into peace. You can't shame someone into peace or respect. You have to practice what you preach, and you have to extend that same love and respect to whoever's connecting with you in life to make a difference in this world. So thank you, everybody, for tuning in to us tonight. We're happy to be here. Say goodbye, everybody.
Bye.
Have a great night.